Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann. I'm also known as the Habit Fixer, and I really love helping women over 50 to enjoy amazing health and well-being and self-confidence. And I do that using EFT, which is a simple tapping technique, nutrition, skincare, and digital products. And today, my guest is Daniel Moore. If you don't know who he is, he's a design mercenary. I love the sound of that, Daniel. Love that. And he's going to be talking about overcoming negative brand habits. So I'm going to hand straight over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Julie. So this is an interesting one that I've been doing a lot of experimenting around recently. So I'm going to basically frame this in a really bizarre manner. So you may have to bear with me while I do this.
So
what I framed it in is the 7 deadly sins. So I'll rattle them off. So that's wrath, gluttony, greed, envy, sloth, lust, and pride. Okay. And no matter how good your brand is, these sins will try and seep their way into the brand. And what your job as a brand owner or a business owner is to attempt to stop that from happening, basically. And one of the ways that they do sort of seep in is through the building of bad habits in your brand, which is, I think, why we've got me in here today. So really, the main thing you can really do to prevent that is build good habits in your brand. But if you can't see what the problem is, then quite often your habits work against you. So it's kind of a cyclical kind of manner, basically, that things work in. Just wondering how to do this. Maybe I should go through some of the sins to give you an idea of what I mean by that. Let's start with. I'm actually going to start directly in the middle because that seems like a very illogical place to begin. And I'm going to start with envy because envy is actually one of the more insidious ones, and it's also one that's very common. So envy is when you spend too long looking at your competition and not enough time looking at your ideal client. So what envy does is it refocuses your attention on your competition, and you start getting things like brand paranoia or brands or literally envy of your competition. And when paranoia seeps in, it means that you start fearing things. And as soon as you start fearing things, you start making poor choices around your brand. So this is what I mean by a sin. So it's a difficult kind of area to approach because you don't want to think about it. You don't want to think negatively around your brand. And so that's why I've sort of personified these as these sins, basically. So if you're looking at envy, you want to build habits that prevent you from feeling envious or jealous of your competition. And so what that means is you have to build habits to make yourself go, if I start focusing too heavily on my competition, I need to redress the balance, and I need to go back and I need to look at the people who actually matter to my business, which is your clients, which is looking at them and understanding what their needs and what their focuses are. Because the more attention we spend, we've only got a certain amount of attention. We've only got a certain amount of energy we can give to any one task. And if we're busy giving that to looking at what our competition is doing and wondering, hey, why am I not doing that well? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have created a habit which is causing you to fail, basically. So that's kind of an example of where I'm going with this.
Completely brilliant. I love the way you've reframed it, actually. And I guess the thing is, if you're checking out your competition, Daniel, then actually the algorithm is going to keep having them send you something. Is that right? I don't know much about algorithms.
Well, this is where technology then, because this is a whole another sort of area of this, but this is where systems and technology start coming in and feeding you more of that. This is why I like starting with envy, because it is a particularly insidious one. Because as soon as you start feeling it, you start feeding it. And that's the real. I just came up with that on the spot. I'm going to use that later. But with the way that things like especially social media works, and I'm glad we got onto this quite early, with the way that social media works, it will show you things that you interact with and you spend time giving your attention to, which means that if you are giving your attention too much to your competitors, you're giving them more eyes and you're pushing their algorithm and you're pushing them up. So you're actually self-fulfilling your own envy. You are creating your own monster, because you are so busy focusing on this thing that you want to overcome that you are not focusing on what you need to do to overcome it. And that's give your attention to your clients.
So good to spell it out. So is there another particular favorite that you have in the 7 sins?
It's difficult to say, actually, because I've spent, as I said, I've spent a little while doing this, and I've even like drawn illustrations of all of them, which you might see sort of like towards the end. I'll give you something to share. But lust is a good one as well, because it's always a weird one to kind of bring up. Oh, you have a lustful business. It sounds very strange. And weirdly, in the quiz that I've been doing, a lot of people are coming up with brand lust. But the whole point of brand lust is it's actually a lack of self-control in the brand, which can be very difficult to kind of get on top of, because you kind of put yourself in a position where you just try and grab anything and everyone. You're so busy looking at what the next interesting thing is, or the next exciting next big thing is, that you're not spending the time and attention on the things you already have. So lust is kind of just a grabbing of anything that takes your fancy at any time, basically. And when you do that, you're building this habit that you're constantly trying to grab the new next exciting thing, and that habit prevents you from putting the onus and the work into the position that you actually need it at that time. Again, this could be your clients. If you're not putting the work and the effort into keeping into maintaining your relationship with clients, yes, you might get new clients in, but you're wasting all that energy you spent getting the old clients in because you're ignoring them and just going for the new next best thing. Which, as any business owner knows, if you're not retaining, you're causing yourself a big problem, because you're constantly then chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And again, it's another one of these kind of self-fulfilling prophecies where if you're constantly chasing, you're not paying attention to what you already have.
Wow, such great points, Daniel. And I guess overall perspective is a really, really important thing, isn't it? Keeping work-life balance in perspective. Having a perspective on what you're really trying to create, kind of looking down at what you're creating, rather than, like you say, getting swamped by other people's stuff.
Absolutely. And again, a lot of these habits are formed when you get sort of too close to the brand, in a way. It's a very fine line, because you need to be involved and engaged in the brand, but you also need to be able to take a logical sort of outside view to it as well. You need to have that eye for it, where you take away the feelings and the emotion from your side and say what's best for the brand, what's going to work, and how is this actually going to operate, because otherwise you get, as you say, you get mired in it, and then you're just spending all of your energy fighting and trying to fix things and put out fires, when you could be doing something useful like resting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love your perspective on design, Dan. I know that you are you're very unique, and obviously being called a design mercenary kind of speaks for itself. But how important would you say it is to really, really be unique?
So firstly, a caveat with the word unique. It's always difficult because of sheer numbers of people on the planet. And so when we say unique, sometimes we get stuck with what that actually means. And unique doesn't mean you're doing anything particularly different, but what it does mean is that the way you approach things is based upon your own experience and your own personality and your own feelings and emotions. That's what makes it unique. It may be similar to the way other people are approaching things, but again, from a purely mathematical standpoint, of course it is. There's a lot of people in the world, but the way you do things individually and the way you talk to and deal with your clients is a very unique and thing, like a thumbprint, and that's what your brand really is. So I've just gone down a path and I've forgotten the question.
Well, about being unique, but I guess
yeah,
what you're
unique.
saying is be yourself, aren't you? Be
Yeah,
yourself.
essentially, yes. I think that I had an argument on LinkedIn once. I'd say an argument. It was a minor disagreement about about showing sort of things like political posts and more personal things on LinkedIn, because this person said, why would you do that? You immediately alienate at least 50% of your potential client base. And I said, well, no, because they wouldn't have worked with you as well as the other 50%. Why would I try and dilute my message to reach 100% of people when all I actually need is 50% of people? I don't need 100% of people. I just need the ones that work with me well and understand my value and understand my way of doing things. I then went even further and said, actually, if you look at how many people there are in the world, I don't need 99.9% of those people at all. If even, again, doing the maths, if even 0.1% of people in the world gave you £100, you'd be you'd be done, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, in actual fact, and this is the way I look at things, and this is why I mark myself out of the design mercenary on LinkedIn and other places, is because it shows you a little bit about me. It gives you a little bit more into sort of like how I operate and the kind of person I am. And some people see that and they're like, no, not for me, thank you. And that's great, because I've not wasted their time, they've not wasted my time. It means that I can, spend more time on the people who actually come to me and go, hey, I absolutely love your stuff. I'm really interested. I want to work with you.
Yeah, you want to work with people that you want to work with, don't you? You want it to be a really great relationship. You want people to really love what you do. And for those of you watching and think, what the hell is that thing that's behind Daniel? Just say quickly what it is.
My sword.
Sword, of course.
Sword, of course. It's a veiled threat against people who aren't going to pay me. It doesn't happen very often. You'd be surprised to hear.
Oh, well, I actually know that Daniel does something in his spare time, which probably on your website, isn't it? Which I will obviously put below this. Below this.
I'm not shy with it.
Hey?
I'm not shy with it.
No, absolutely not. Thank you so much, Daniel. And the 7 deadly sins,
yes,
all of them, are they available for someone to look at?
So yes, I have a quiz. It's about, I think it's about 7 or 8 questions. It's a very short quiz. It's kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit fun. It's a little bit cheeky. It's not supposed to be taken with exceptional seriousness, but it will give you an idea into what might be going wrong in your brand and some ways to fix it. I'm going to send you a link for that, aren't I? And we're going to just link that to this.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was just absolutely fascinating. I love it when I talk to you. And thank you everyone else for watching. Just check out the links below.